Welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. My first guest is a guy I'm a fan of. He's got a show called The Jeselnik Offensive on Comedy Central. Anthony Jeselnik, what's up, man?
Hey, man, great to see you.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me on the show.
I worked with you. I don't know if you remember this. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We did a thing that Norton did together.
I absolutely remember that.
Yeah, and I remember sitting backstage. This was in the throes of my heroin addiction, and I was backstage, and you must have made a mark, because through all of that, like when you're addicted to heroin, it's a complete full-time job. You have to figure out, okay, how long is this last dose going to last? When are the withdrawals going to start? Are they going to start in front of people, in public? Where am I going to get the money to hide from my accountant to get there? It's terrible. It's really, I wouldn't recommend it. But I can remember watching your set back then, and I said, this kid's going to make it because he looks like he's on Dawson's Creek. But he's hilariously funny. Like, it was a real funny set. And now, it makes sense. My finger, once again, being on the pulse of America.
Yeah, these Dawson Creek references you're throwing around, I can tell that you know what's up, man.
Yeah, you're a sports guy, you might appreciate this. At Man TV, I pitched Andre Dawson's Creek. And it didn't get past the room. But, yeah, so you're, I want to say congratulations on your show is really funny, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's really good. So how hard is it to get a show like that on the air? Because, the whole bit of it is that it's offensive comedy. But,
sure.
You get away with a lot of stuff that I assume other people can't get away with. But it's good. It's funny, so it's not offensive, right? Do you care?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. When I called it the Jeselnik offensive, I was kind of saying, like, we're coming at you kind of thing, like a military type term.
Yeah.
But now
like the TED offensive.
Exactly.
Right.
And people didn't like it that much, but now it kind of it saves us from criticism, because people will be like, well, it's called the offensive,
Yeah,
so
we're
you
setting
can't
up.
get mad.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is helpful.
You did an interview somewhere where you said you're so far into the offensive joke territory where an AIDS joke is actually hacky to you at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, rape jokes, like, I've been there, done that.
You're going on. So
Yeah.
does it have to be rape murder at this point? Like, where do you stop?
I think if you rape someone and give them AIDS, then that's okay for me. But
Right,
anything
okay,
else,
that's your level.
anything else. But people will be like, "Oh, you're just trying to get attention. You're just trying to be shocking." I'm not. I'm just interested in the dark subjects. I'm interested in death and these horrible tragedies, and trying to make those funny.
Right.
So it's a fun to have. I was like, what if the devil had his own talk show? You know what I mean? What would that be like?
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah.
I agree with you, because there's a fun thing. Some comics, like some of the better comics, are able to dig a hole. Like some guys on stage will purposely dig a hole and then get out of it.
Exactly.
But it's a brilliant thing to just say, look, we're being offensive, and then do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to fail as a comedian. Like, I'm one of those pretentious comedians who calls themselves an artist.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm like, listen, I'm going to try things. I'm going to try to make this joke about this guy who just died.
Right.
And sometimes you nail it, and sometimes you miss, and people get upset. But it's okay.
You got to fail.
Exactly. You got to fail.
You don't know. You can't find the greatness unless you fail.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, and you got to be proud of this failure. Still, at least I went for it. You know, I tried it.
And when you get so jaded as a comic, that's the only thing you find interesting after a while.
Totally.
It's like when you aggravate people, you want to get people mad.
Exactly. I want to get booed.
Right. You find that you have contempt for most people. You find that the people that like you hate.
Yes. Yeah. The people who are like screaming. Like I would open with a rape joke in my act for a little while. After Tosh got in trouble, I was like, this will be fun to do.
Right.
And now people scream like, I want a rape joke, and the last thing I want to do is give them a rape joke at that point.
Yeah. Now you're not getting it.
Exactly. Now I got to go the other way to insult my fans now. And now I got to tell jokes about the Smurfs and
you got to do like a Dylan thing. That's the artist way to go, man.
Yes.
You do it. You got to plug in, and then write positively 4th Street. So now you're from Pittsburgh, and so how old are you now?
I'm 34.
You're 34. Yeah. So did you go L.A. first or New York first?
I went L.A. first, right after college, because I figured I could live better on nothing in L.A. than I could in New York.
That's definitely true.
So I was in L.A. for about 7 years, and then moved out to New York to write for Fallon for the first year, and then stayed here for a few years, and then went back.
And you like L.A. or New York better?
I like them both. The seasons, you can't mess with LA. It's all winter long. I was just thrilled I wasn't in New York. But now being back here for this week has been great. I like walking around.
When you're doing a show like this, like I said, one of my good friends, my best friends, Frank Sebastiano, writes for you.
Yeah.
And like he's like the ballsiest joke writer I've ever met.
Yeah.
And he wrote for Norm Macdonald, you know, in the Weekend Update years when Norm was doing that. What are subjects like when you see something like the Boston bombing and you're doing a show like you do? What like is that? Do you just get excited? Is that like
It's a
is that
challenge.
like watching
like,
porn to you in a way?
Like it's weird. Like I kind of gotten known for tweeting about like tragedies with a day like when the Aurora shooting happened.
Right.
Like I'll wake up in the morning and I'll see 100 tweets to me, and I'm like, what happened? And like, where's your joke?
People are letting you in on it.
Yeah. So the Aurora thing, I tweeted the day of, like hours after it happened. I tweeted, other than that, how was the movie? And I didn't get in a lot of trouble because people thought like that's pretty funny.
Well, I just saw a great joke you did. Like it's funny. I probably seem like like I'm some sort of stalker fan, but I literally just watched all your shows on demand, so it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
What was it? You did a great joke about someone telling that Aurora kid the ending of Dark Knight.
Yeah,
is that his worst nightmare?
We're talking about James Holmes being a Muslim now, and he just prays 5 times a day that someone will tell him the ending of The Dark Knight Rises. It's killing me.
Yeah, he never got
Never
got to see the ending.
Yeah. I used to say that it was great that he stopped dyeing his hair red because that made him look crazy.
You know, I'll tell you why you got something going on, because I just went to this TikTok diner on Route 3 in Clifton, New Jersey after the show the other night. Sometimes after the show, I'll go to a diner. I know I don't look.
That's a great plug, by the way.
Yeah, sometimes I'll stop by a diner. I know it's odd to think that. But, and I was eating, and there were like a table of about 4 21-year-old kids, maybe 5 or 6 guys, being loud, like what you do at a diner when you're 21. And you do a bit called Who Wore It Better? And they were quoting the bit.
Oh, wow.
Every one of these kids were like, Guy Fieri was the belle of the ball. And you're like, I said, so I want to let you know that. You got something going on here. So are you, like, what's a goal? What do you want to do? You want to keep doing the show for a while? And do you have like a million guys tearing at you, like, you got to do this? This is just a stepping stone. You got to do something else. And are you able to enjoy this a little bit?
I'm enjoying it, but it's just what interests me next. For a while, all I wanted to do was stand up. People were like, you should act, you should do this. And it doesn't really interest me to get better at acting, to where I have to do that.
Right.
But after working on Fallon for a year, I thought I wanted to be a writer. Yeah. And I got the Fallon job, and I saw him saying yes and no to things, and I was like, oh, I want to be the guy who says yes and no.
Sure, yeah.
And they weren't really receptive to me telling jokes about people who just died or making fun of these tragedies.
Yeah, because Jimmy's great, but that's not his thing.
He's like, he wants people to like him, and he should. He's doing a great job. He was right to say no to all my jokes, but it just made me want to do my version of that. So this is just kind of me getting that out of my system. That maybe I'd love to do a couple years of this.
Right.
I heard a thing when you have your own TV show. For the first year, you work for them. You work for the company.
Right.
The second year, you guys work together. Third year and on, they work for you.
If it's a hit,
Sure.
right?
And that's why if you get to that third year, it's a hit, and they work for you. That I want to get to that third year where we get away with a lot, but I want to get away with even more. Where they can't say anything.
See, as a fan of the show, I want to see that third year too. So you got to stick around and do it a little longer. But it is hard. It's funny Chris Rock used to say, I didn't get in the show business to go to the same office every day. It can get boring.
It's tough because I don't know about you. I became a comedian because I didn't want a boss. I didn't want someone telling me what to do, and no one could tell me what to do as a comic.
Absolutely.
And people would pull me aside and say, you should not be so dark. You'll go further if you're not so dark. And now here I am. But now I have bosses who are like, you shouldn't be so dark. I'm like, I didn't win this job in a raffle.
Right,
You gave it to me.
Exactly.
Leave
Let me
alone.
do what I'm doing. Yeah.
And I like them, so I'm happy to take their notes, but it's just weird I'm anti-authoritarian. I have problems with authority that it's tough to
I think most good
listen to.
comedians are. I mean, how could you?
Exactly.
Anybody who's fine with authority should not be a comic.
Totally.
Yeah.